So once again, in the notes, the products is a class component. I'm going to do this as a functional component with use state and use effect, just so you can use both. I really think like it's a good idea. I'll probably start doing some classes one just so we can see examples of both. I just want to do the use state and use effect just because we just recently talked about hooks. Okay, so we have our products. We want to grab them from our server. So we're going to use the use effect so we can do this like as a componented mount function. And so use effect just takes a function as its first argument, and its second argument is optional. If I pass it an empty array, that means it's only going to run when this component mounts. So here, let's do axios.get API/products. We won't do this as async, we'll just do a .then. We're going to get our response. Let's console.log the response. Let's do a .catch too. Take the error and just log the error. All right, so let's try running this, see if we get any errors. I know there's one we're going to get, but let's just see it. So I'm going to start my Rails server. So in my Rails project, do Rails S port 3001. And then for my React, I'm going to cd into client, run yarn start. All right, so Axios is not defined in my products.js. Let's go ahead and import that. And so if I go to, where's my, if I go to products, I'm seeing I'm getting an error. I'm trying to get localhost 3000 API products. So can anyone think of the step I missed that might be causing this?
You have to add proxy in the JSON package.
Yeah, I forgot to add the proxy. So let's go to my package.json and make sure this is in your client. It's possible you could have one inside of your Rails project. So I'm just going to come in here, proxy. That's going to be HTTP localhost 3001. And then a comma. So if I run that, I still get the same error. What do I need to do?
Restart the server.
Yeah, restart the server. So I'm restarting I don't need to restart my Rails server. I need to restart my React server. So if I run this, let's go and inspect. And there's my array of 100 items. So that's, now I know I'm successfully have hooked up Axios and React to my server. So as you're developing, especially with the React and Rails, it's, it becomes more and more important that not only your use of React, your debugging skills becomes more important, but also using your tools. So it really becomes more important that you're checking your, sorry, when you get errors, that you check your Rails server. So in your terminal, because this might give you some of those errors that will pinpoint where your issues are arising from. Because we no longer get our errors just nicely printed out to us in the browser like we did when we're just using Rails. You're going to have to come find them inside of here. But if you can see, like, this is just like we started to get API products. And, I can see like this gave it back 200, okay. So this is just telling me like the history of my API. So I can see errors, I can see the successes, I can see like parameters being passed. So this becomes very useful when we're doing Rails and React. All right, so let's go ahead and let's start filling out our products JS. So what we're going to do is, let's just come here for our render. We have products. We're going to do this as a card group. So from semantic card, let's import card. Let's do a card.group. And then we're going to say render, let's products. So let's go create this render products. Or actually, let's just do it this way. I'm going to make a product card. So this way, actually, no, let's just do it like this. And I'm just going to slack out this method to render products, because I don't want to, this is something, I kind of want to more focus on the Rails and React part of this. So here's the render products method. Let's go ahead and throw that inside of here. I do need to add a const, so const render products. So make sure you add this. And we don't need to pull it. So this was pulled from a state component. So we don't need to grab products from state, from this.state. We do need to create it though right here. So const products, set products equals use state. That's going to be an empty array. So now we have this products defined right there. And here, if you remember, when we looked at our response, the data object in that had the array of our products. So in our .then of our Axios call, where we get the products, that's where I'm going to set products. Then we have this render products that's just doing some semantic stuff. There is one there's one thing in here that's new. So let's look at this. This button has this as, and it has a link. So we need to import that from React Router DOM. So now this button's going to come back as a link component, and we can look at what that looks like when we render it to HTML. And since it's a link, we can give it a path to, so we're just saying product/product ID, because we're going to make a show page for this eventually. We haven't done that. But let's go ahead and see if this is working. All right, so render products. So buttons not defined. So we're using this button. We need to import that from semantic.
Mine is still saying it can't resolve the Axios, but like I imported it. So what do you think I'm missing?
In your package.json, do you have Axios in there in dependencies?
Let me check.
You maybe forgot to do a yarn add Axios.
Oh yeah, probably.
So if it's not, yeah, if it's not in your package.json, then just in your terminal.
In client?
Yeah, in your client, do a yarn add Axios.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so let's see what's going on. So I'm getting an error. Just saying cannot read products length of undefined. Let's go to my products. Let's come here in my render products. Let's just go ahead and say conf. Let's debug. Let's do a debugger here. So yeah, now I'm inside my debugger. So yeah, if I type products, that's undefined, which is what it's saying, which let's come look at this. So I have my products here. Let's see.
Does it matter that it's an object destructuring and not array destructuring?
Oh my gosh, yes it does. Oh, I didn't see that. Thank you. That's, yeah, because useState returns back in an array, not an object. So that was totally my issue. Or one of them. We'll see if there's another one. Sometimes when you use debuggers, it gets stuck, so you just have to like open up a new tab. I'm going to inspect. Let's go to products. And there's all my products. So I'm getting this warning. Each child in a list should have a unique key. So let's go fix that. So I could come right here inside of my card. So I just need to put a key at the like container component where it's getting rendered over. And another thing that's sometimes common to do with like these keys is you can first append it with like the object name and then the ID. And that's just to make sure, like maybe you're rendering like cards and users or like multiple things. You might run into the case where something does have the same ID. If you append it with like the name of the thing, then it just makes it really unlikely that you're going to run into issues where you have the same key. And sorry, this should be product.id. Okay, so if I come refresh that now, that error's gone. Let's look at this view button. So now, since we did that as link, it gave us an A tag, and it also gives us the href, so product/26. So now this button is a link. So if I go to that link, I get a broken link because we actually haven't defined a route for product/ID, but it is working. I can come up to my URL and see like that's products to, that's products 3. Just to review that. So here we have the button. We're saying it's as, like, we've seen this as like, we've done the as like a header 1. But we can also make this as a actual component. And we can just add we can add the 2 from that. Okay, so now that we have this, let's go ahead and get that show page working. So what we're going to want to do is let's come into our app. Let's handle this path. So I'm going to come in and make a new path. It's going to match products. And then I need to pass it an ID. And then we can call this something like, we'll go to the product view component, which is not defined, but we'll just import it anyway. So now I have this path and this product view. Let's go ahead and make that component. Another thing, well, actually I won't do that. If you want to, on your own, investigate snippets in VS Code, there's snippets libraries that you can install. You can create your own snippets, but if you get sick of typing like all this same code, like I want to create a functional component in React, there's like these snippets that I can run that I can type like RCF and hit tab. And that will like create a functional component for me. So there's, if you get into like the habit of, or not the habit, but if you're like working somewhere and you're doing like a lot of this similar things, you can, these snippets can save you some time. But I'll have you look at that on your own if you want to do it. I'll just write this out anyway. So we import React from React. Let's just export default function, which would be product view. And this can just return. It's just inside of here, do a div. Right now, I just want to see if this is working. So I'm just going to create a very simple functional component. See if when I click on the nav link, if it comes here. So if I go to view, that goes to product view. So that's now rendering that product view page. Okay. So one thing, and we briefly did talk about this, but we want to, I mean, I think we talked about it last week, how to get props or how to get that param, you know, that ID param to this page, because we want to use that React router object. So we can grab it from there. So let's look at this. So once again, this is a functional component. I'm going to grab the use state use effect. So let's just set this already. So const product and set product. This is just going to be equal to use state. And this is one product, so it's not going to be an array by default. It's just going to be an empty object. And for the use effect, what we're going to want to do, so this is like our component did mount. We're going to want to do an Axios call to get, because this is our show page for product. We're going to use Axios dot get, but we want to grab just one product. So that's API / API products. And then we need to pass the ID. And how we do that is we use, sorry, I need to interpolate this. Remember, since this is rendered in our app, this component has access to something called this.props, or it's props, since we're in a functional component, props.history, props.match .params .id. So this ID is just whatever we defined it as here. Here we said :ID. If we would have said like X, then that'd be props.match params X. So it's only ID is because that's what we called it here in this route component. And since we're rendering product view in a route component, it has this.props.match. It also has this.props or props.history. So it gains some props from React router. And it looks like I have some issue here maybe because this is not, why is that different? That's a different color. We'll look at that later. So I'm just doing a get API products and I'm just matching that. Then we can do a .then response and a .catch error. Let's console.log both of these just to see what we're getting. All right, so if I come here, let's pull up my inspector and go to view. So product 10, I'm getting back status 200, so it looks like that was successful. And then in my data object, that's just an object that has the ID to the name, description, and department. So this has all of the, that just grabbed my one page or that one object. If I were to look in my server, I would see started to get for API products 2. And you can see that's doing a little SQL statement and that's grabbing it. So that was successful. So all I need to do here is do my set product And that's going to be response.data. And inside of here, we can go ahead and maybe make this, let's come and clean this up a little. So let's pull a segment from Semantic UI. Let's do a header as well, header from Semantic. So this is going to be as an H1 element. And this can be product.name. Just going to copy 3 of these. Let's do an H3 and an H6. So this can be product.department. And let's do this product.price. Let's just leave it like that for now. And so now I have just a little like detailed view on that. So if I want to have like a go back button on this segment, let's do that. So let's maybe add a couple line breaks. Then add a button. So this could say something like go back, or just back. And then inside of here, let's give it some props. Let's do color, black, and on click. So we can get props. So once again, this is a React router. We have props.history. And this history has a go back function on it. So now that back button is just going to take us back to wherever we were at. Questions here? So here's a way we can use React Router to, create a whole new page like a show page where we can then do another Axios call to grab some additional data. And in this case, honestly, if we go to our product page, actually, this does have a little more information. I guess this does have our price. But if you look at our data from our array, there's really no additional information in this page. So this is kind of like a pointless Axios call. And because we already have the data in this array, but we haven't learned about context yet. So we really haven't learned a way to keep this array. Because really what should happen when I go to products, I should almost just, if I should have access to this array, and because I have all of my objects here in this array. When I click view, I shouldn't do an Axios call. I should just grab the item from my array of objects if there's no additional information. But maybe if you think about something like Amazon, like where you're looking at products and you go to the view page, there's normally going to be some additional information. Like maybe there's comments, maybe there's a whole bunch of information on the product. And like Amazon doesn't want to like load all that information up front. It wants to kind of selectively download it as you're navigating. So let's go ahead and let's do a form. So let's do a create functionality. So in our products, we're going to want to come in here and add a form. And I think with this form, I'm just going to, we've done a lot of forms, so I think I'm going to slack this one out as well, so we don't have to code it. So there's the form we're going to make, the products form. So inside of my components, new file, products, product form. .js. Not much different here, except there is one thing that's so this is a class component. Just a little trick up here. So we're setting, instead of just setting our state to all of these values, because we have 4 things, we have name, price, description, department. We set this, we create this object called default values, and we set it equal to that. And then our state, we just spread over that object. And the reason it's nice to do that is because then like in our handle submit, where we need to like clear all of that, we can just spread over that again. So we don't have to like come in here and do this dot set state and come in here and just do name, price, you know, type that all out here. We can just use that object that we stored as a variable and spread out over there. And so this handle submit, we need to still make this API request, so it's not completely done. It's just the, this is just like this semantic UI part of it. So let's go ahead and see if we can get this rendered. So I'm just going to add it right here. Products form. Let's go back to products. There's our form. We have the on-change handler working. Submit clears it, but we're not doing an API call. One thing we might want to do with this is this form is just at the very top. Maybe we want to have like a toggler to hide and show this form. Let's add that really quick here. So we could come, you know, create some more state. So this could be like something like show form, and then set show form. Let's default that to false. So by default, our form won't be showing. So we could do, then we can use that show form Boolean, do something, do a short circuit valuation. So I say show form and products form. By default, show form is false. So if I were to look at my products page, it's not there. Let's just add a quick button down here. That has a on click. And this will just be pretty simple. It's just going to set show form to not show form. And this can just say toggle form. So I'm calling this set show form. So I'm getting that error where it's saying, hey, you're doing too many re-renders. So I don't want to call this function. I want to return this function. So I'm just going to create an arrow function. It's not the best UI, but I think that's good for now. Could clean that up a little, but that'll work for now. Okay, so now we have our product. Let's go ahead to our products form. Here we're probably going to want to do like the add, product. And I'm just going to switch these up. Let's just call this add. And I'm going to call this add product. So our products form has a prop of add, which is I'm setting equal to add product, which we need to define up here. So I'm going to say const add product. This should take like a product object. And here we're going to do like Axios call and update products. So let's first of all, before I try to do the Axios call or anything, let's just make sure I can log this product object and make sure I just want it to be an object that has like the name, price, description, and just all with all the values from my form. So I have this add product. I pass it to product form as a prop add. So let's go to my products form. In my handle submit, there's my product right there. I'm just spreading over this .state. So we have a choice here. We could do the API call here. Or we could do it in our app.js. So let's actually do it here. So we'll do the handle submit here. We'll make the Axios call here. So let's do axios.post. And so that's going to be API/products. And once again, if you can't remember where those are coming from, let's go to localhost 3001. So if I want to do, I want to hit my create method, I'm going to do a post request to API/products. So that's where I'm getting that from, API/products. I'm going to want to pass it, since this is a post, I'm going to pass it the product. And then let's do a dot then. Let's just console.log the response. All right. So let's come back to localhost 3000. Let's go to products, toggle my form. Let's just call that test one. Oh, this doesn't really matter. It's always good to have your inspector open when you're doing this, just so you can see any errors pop up and to see what's coming back. So in my product form, I got a status 200. I have an ID 101. So I know that's, that's been successfully written to my database. But if I look here, it's not going to be here. If I refresh, scroll down, there it is. So I've successfully added this to my database, but now I need to add it to my state. So this products, I have this add product that I pass as add to my products form. And I'm kind of expecting to get a product object back. So let's do that inside of here. Let's do this dot props. It's add, because that's what I called it. It's not add item, it's add. That was the prop I gave it, the prop name I gave it. And I'm going to add that response.data. And then in my response.data, so in this add product, now we should log that object here. Let's do a string like that. I'm going to get rid of these logs. Let's just see if this is working. Let's go to toggle form. Let's inspect. Put in some random data. Go to my console, clear it. Let's see, submit. So there's my product object in products, and I'm passing it. So I have all that data. Now I just need to go ahead and so that's all working. So I just need to add it. So set products. I'm going to add this product object and then spread out over my products. So let's see if that's working. Toggle form, test one, department X price, submit, and there it is. So I could have, with this product form, I could do the Axios call here, or I could do it in my, I could have done it in here. I think it probably makes more sense to do it in your product form, because then I could use this Axios call. I could use this form has the Axios call. So I could use this form in different components. Maybe I'm not only creating products in products.js, but I'm able to create them in some other component. Like, I don't know, warehouse or something. Warehouse could create a product. So if I keep that in the product form, that Axios call there, then it's going to be there wherever I use it. And all I need to do wherever I use that form is just have some way to update the UI. Because that's all this add product's doing right now. It's just updating the UI to get this object back from the database, when it gets this object back from the database. Questions on this?
I got a question on the handle submit.
Yeah.
So yesterday you didn't use the prevent default. So I can't remember why you said you didn't use it yesterday.
Yeah, because with semantic UI, their form does that for us, their form element. But if you're not using semantic UI and you're just doing an HTML form, you would have to have it. So, and I showed that briefly when I created my own custom component, the form component, where I had the handle submit that prevent a default. And so in that one parent component that I reused, so that's what semantics was doing. They had that their one form component that we use has their own on submit function that will call this one, but it also, before it calls our submit, it probably is doing a whole bunch of other stuff. And one of those things it's doing is it's calling e.prevent default. Okay, so I think while this is fresh on your mind, and while you have like this project set up with React Router, I think for the next hour, I want you to create a new model. Do something simple, like maybe it just, it doesn't have to be associated with this. Just go create a new model in Rails that has whatever fields you want, and get as far as you can. I would say first do the read of all the objects, like go seed your database, go create like how X amount of objects, seed your database, and then try to do the show page where you just go in and you grab one. I don't think you'll have time to do create. If you do create last, but I want you to create a model, do a show page, and does that sound good?
Did you say, can you push this up to GitHub and share the link? Because mine's like quite broken and I need to go through and figure it out. Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. And also, actually, let's just do this as a group. So I'm going to commit this. Because I would say this is now in like a pretty decent spot to be like a starter. Has like some examples. So if you were to use this as your project or like your starter, you can't just like clone it from GitHub and just run it. Like there's a couple things we're going to have to do. So let's kind of talk about that. And I'm actually going to throw these in the README. So this is exactly what you'd want to use the README for. Like these are the steps we're going to want to do when running this app. Actually, I don't want to do that yet, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to CD backpack. I hope that actually went to GitHub, because I'm going to delete this. Actually, I won't. This is the one I just did. So I want everyone to kind of also follow along with this. So here's the project you're going to take. I'll select this out. See if this works. Okay, so I'm going to do a git clone. I'm going to clone this repo. And actually, oh, this might take a while. So I'm just trying to copy this project because I want to delete it. But it's got a whole bunch that might take forever. That just took a while because of the node modules. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this project. This is also going to, so this takes a long time just because of that node modules. Okay, so now that project's, my Rails React router is gone. If I list inside of here, it's no longer there. But I've copied it, so cp-r, give it the folder name, give it the folder of the new project. That's how you can copy a folder into a new folder. And then I deleted that old folder. Because what I want to do is do a git clone. And then I don't think, does anyone have this name? React Rails Router Starter? If you have that same name, give it a different name, like RRR, or I don't care.
Like in our GitHub or like in our, like on our local?
So this is just a, I'm cloning a repo. You're cloning my repo right here. So I'm doing this in the week 6 folder. If I'm cloning a repo and it has the same name, like if I have in my directory something with the project name React Rails Router Starter, I can't have 2 folders with the same name. So if I want to, or if I don't like that name, if you're cloning it and you hate this name, React Rails Router, with the clone command, you can come in and add another argument that would be the name of the project. If you leave it off, by default, it's just going to take whatever I called it. But if you want to change the name, you can add that. I'm not going to change it, so it just uses that default name. So now I can go ahead and cd into that. Oops. React Rails Router Starter. So I'm going to open this up. So since I've deleted it, I want to add some instructions here. So I'm going to put these in my README. And README is Markdown. Markdown has like some weird ways to format it, like pound is going to be like a header. And then if I do these inside of ticks, that's just going to style it. So I'm just going to like have these instructions for myself. So when I clone this repo, like if you have a starter repo, you're going to want to know how to use it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clone it. I mean, you could be really, verbose and do something like that. So we're going to cd into our React Rails Router Starter. So what do you think I'm going to need to do? So now I'm in a Rails project that I clone. What are some things I need to do? Because I can't just type Rails S, right? I might be able to since I have the same name. I should have named it differently. I'm
Do
gonna
you
need
have
to
to
do,
like on add and run gem file bundle?
yeah, I have to run bundle. So I could just, you know, and then, you know, I also like, this isn't working because I'm not getting the error because I already have React Rails router starter. I would need to run these commands. Rails DB create, DB migrate. If I had a seed file in your starter, I'd run DB seed. I'm just gonna run it like that. If I run this, I get this error. So let's look at this error. I have this database, Rails React Router development already starts. Already exists. Now I could do Rails DB drop. What's the problem if I drop this? What's the problem with this? So I'm using this as a starter. Maybe I'm going to use this on multiple projects. What's the problem if I get into the habit of just dropping this database? So if I drop a database that another project's using and recreate it, then that database is no longer going to be there for that other project. So this isn't going to be a good way to do it. There's a couple ways you could do this. So first of all, you know, I would always maybe come in here and give it a different project name when you clone it. So that'd be part of my instructions. So let's just CD back. I'm going to do that, git clone again. Project name. I'm not going to leave that like colon. I'm just going to call this something different. Let's say this is, you know, like house app. I don't know what it is, but let's just call it something like house. So let's CD into house. Let's bundle. So now it has a different name. Let's try running Rails DB create, DB migrate. So even though I renamed the project, I'm still running into this issue. So let's open this up in code. That's not it. If I come to my database, or no, sorry, my config, database YAML, I can see I have, you know, these database names, Rails React Router Test, Rails React Router Development, and all of these. So what I'm going to want to do is change all of these Rails React Router. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to copy this, Command C, I'm going to do a Command F in Visual Studio Code to find all of these. And then I'm going to replace that with whatever my project name is. And I'll go through these one at a time. So let's call that house development. That'll be house test. And that one I need to make uppercase. So I did that in my database YML. Where's my README? So it's like a step 4. I would come in here and say, let's give us a good path. So in config database YML, let's just say replace database name with, replace database name. And maybe I want to have like a little example. And that's something like as much detail. I mean, this README is really going to be for you because you're the one who's going to be cloning this repo and trying to get it to work. So as much information as you need. But that'd be a step that we need to do. So then inside of here, I've changed that name. Now let's try to run Rails DB create, DB migrate. So let's see if this is working. Rails S, Rails server dash port 3001. I could even take that command, paste that in the README. So if I go to localhost 3001, API products, that's empty. This one, I do have a seed file. I could run Rails DB seed. If that was part of my instructions, like the Rails DB seed, if you have a seed file and I run that, rerun my server, I can see that. So I have all my stuff there now. And I could say something like this, and this is specific to this one, like who knows if you're going to have this in yours. But I could do something like, should see products. So for React, so I think like that's looking like our Rails is set up. Maybe this could be like, I don't know, clone. So React would be something like CD. You'd want the CD into this React Router Starter / client. Or it might even be better to call this project name. So see how I'm kind of using this variable here? I can do that. I'll just use that as a placeholder. Because depending on what I call that, you know, this is going to change. So let's CD into that. So let's go ahead and do that in here. Split this. So if I was in here, I CD into my project name, which is house, and then into client. What do I need to do when I download a node package? Something that has like a package.json, like our client does. How do I install all of those packages? With Gen, we run bundle. With NPM, we can run NPM install, but we use Yarn, so let's just use Yarn. That's going to install all of those packages in our package.json. So while that's running, say come in here, run Yarn. Run Yarn start. We can do 4, you know, open localhost 3000, maybe make a note like, make sure Rails is running on port 3001. So I could run yarn start. Do I have, yeah, I do have Rails running. Am I forgetting something? Inspect. Home, products. There we go. So I've cloned this from my repo. It's a totally new project. And now I have it up and running. You might want to also another thing you'd maybe want to do if, you know, this is a separate project, you'd want to do a git rm origin. Or sorry, git remote. I forget how so you want to remove the remote. Let me just make sure I have this syntax down. I think it's git remote remove origin. Because if you're cloning this from a repo, yeah, it's git rm remote name. If you're cloning this from a repo, you're going to want to not, like this is your starter kit. You're going to want to keep this the same. And you're using this as a starter, you're going to want to remove this origin and, you know, git add. You know, create a new repo and add origin. questions on this?
You Slack come out.
Slack what out?
The readme we just did.
Let me do this instead. I'm gonna go to GitHub. I've destroyed this repo, but where is it? Now it's on this project. And it's even got, so I didn't add too much styling, but if you notice, like there is a tiny bit of styling, like those ticks make it gray. Like, so it's maybe nice to have those, like anything that's like a command to have in gray. But now I have some basic instructions for this README. I mean, for this repo of how to get started with this.